Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back to ChasingMePodcast. We're so happy you joined us yet again for another week of Erica and I diving into our deep thoughts.
I know it's interesting because I went on previous rants in our episodes. So now I'm like, let's strategize this a little bit more so I don't
We're
go
gonna streamline it for you
off on a
guys.
tangent. Rope me in, Alex. Reel me back. You just need to have a white flag.
Oh yeah, because you listened to the audio, the last one, right? So I tried editing it. It won't be as long.
It's only me talking. And I'm like, love to hear myself talk. Anyways, we're trying to be more to the point and stay on topic. So hopefully, cross your fingers, this episode is a good one to start that journey. So
We're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us again. And I think we're going to go over into overthinking this week, right?
yeah, as I did in that previous episode. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so this week we wanted to focus on overthinking.
Yes.
Because it seems to consume more of my life than I would like to admit.
Okay.
Now understanding what you just told me about how much you don't think you overthink. And I'm like, well,
we have yet to tell everybody what it is that I thought. So I feel like we need to go into first what you think overthinking is, and then, we'll divulge a little bit more.
yeah. So I wanted to start off by describing for Alex and you, what overthinking is to me. And in general, thoughts are good. Mm-hmm. Having reflective thoughts are good. Strategy, planning, all of those types of thoughts are great. But when it comes to taking a thought or an experience and beating it into the ground, it's like beating a dead horse. And I do that way too much on a daily basis, probably. So it's where overthinking in my definition comes in when the time spent in my head is not a direct benefit to progress me forward, or it just passes that benefit line and it's just becoming a waste of my time. So that's my definition.
Okay. Nice.
And yours?
My definition. I think overthinking for me is really either in the past or the future. I tend to overthink in the sense of things that could have been or things that might come to be. That I think is a definition in certain psychiatrists' type of definitions. I do have one, though, that I wanted to share with you. And I did write it down myself as well.
Sharing time. I love it.
I can't remember this just off the top of my head. So Dr. David Lee, who is a psychologist and mental health advocate, says that overthinking is often driven by a sense of uncertainty or perceived threat and can be triggered by a variety of factors, including stress, trauma, or negative self-talk. It can also be a symptom of certain mental health conditions such as anxiety or depression. And this one, out of the many that I read, was probably the most jarring one, right? It felt a little bit more serious than what I think we would both consider our overthinking to be.
I actually think overthinking is more serious than a lot of people just I just overthink. But
you think that
I think it hinders me.
Okay.
A lot. And so I'm like, sounds about right.
I felt like it does sound about right. But at the same time, as I think I mentioned to you earlier today, which was, I don't feel like I overthink as much as I used to. In my younger 20s, I think that I thought a lot about external factors, about how everyone else felt, about the consequences of things that I would do. And now it's not to say that I don't consider them, but I don't take as much of an emotional pull or trigger towards it as I used to. So I think I do a better job of not sitting in it for as long. So I think I overthink, but I don't think I overthink for like days or weeks as I used to before. More so like momentary thoughts of overthinking, of like, I don't know that you consider that overthinking though.
See, I wouldn't, because if you had, say you had a thought yesterday and you let that thought like consume you like the whole day, you're kind of like ruminating on it the whole day.
Yeah.
And then you do it again the next day. And then, or it's like, I think before we talked about like compounding baggage, like when you don't sleep or things like that. I think a symptom, I overthink more when I don't get sleep because I'm bringing those thoughts with me and they're just like piling up, and I'll have this same thought day after day after day after day after day.
Okay. Yeah, no.
No.
Well,
So it's just me.
no.
Okay.
I used to. I really did. I used to overthink everything. I would be so stressed. So I like know what you're feeling, but I don't think it happens to me as much anymore.
And when I say that, it's not like I wonder if it's just I didn't like complete the thought, or it's just like sometimes it's the most randomest thing. Like, oh, that was funny. That person did something yesterday at work or whatever. Like,
is it always negative though?
They tend to be. Yeah.
Okay.
They tend to be things I probably could have done, should have done. If I had proceeded like this, what would have been the outcome potentially? I think I do that to try to get as much information as possible. My mind, I think, does it from a point of information gathering, either about myself, about someone else, about the situation. Mm-hmm. But it's like I never come to the conclusion of that thought, and I just kind of chase myself, and I'll restart the thoughts the next day, and then I'll restart the thoughts the next day.
Are you looking for a solution though when you're thinking about this?
I think that's the mindless overthinking. So like there's no like strategy for me behind it.
Got it. You're not, when you're overthinking, you're not like trying to get to an end goal. It's more just thinking about the same thing consistently.
I believe I'm trying.
Okay.
But my actions do not indicate that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm really trying to just more relate it back and like to what I would do. And like I can tell you what I overthink, which is like events or things like that are technically in my control but outside of my control at the same time. I overthink those things because like the parts that aren't in my control, when I let it get to me, I overthink it. And I'm like, oh.
You overthink the things that are in your control?
Are not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I heard that backwards.
I think I said it the right way.
You probably did. I just wasn't. I was like, oh, I heard something
You spaced out and you heard what you wanted to.
Yeah, apparently.
You're like, great, I'm not alone. No, I'm sure I do overthink both, right? At the end of the day, things that are in my control and aren't in my control. I think I've done a better job now than ever to realize that everything that is in my control, I don't need to overthink, as well as even outside of my control. Okay.
So I'm aware that I overthink to probably an unhealthy amount. You are aware that you don't as much, or you've grown from overthinking potentially in the past to where you're at now, and it's more of a healthy balance. How, like, maybe the question more is for like me, like, do I understand like why I overthink so much?
Yeah, do you understand why?
No sleep. I'm kidding.
We discussed this.
It's, and maybe that's why your quote hit home so much, is because I think it's lack of self-confidence in certain aspects. Let's be honest, I don't overthink everything in my life. I'm a pretty good executor when it comes to just like doing things. And even things that are like slightly out of my control, I'm like, based on my previous knowledge, this is the best path forward. I'm not going to sit here, waste time questioning it. I'm just going to move forward. But I think it comes down to questioning my self-confidence if it comes to something about work, doing something at work, or putting myself out there, or talking to someone I might be interested in, or I have this like sense of hesitation, and then I'll play out every situation or scenario in my head to be like, to try to build up that confidence. But sometimes it just doesn't work. And then I'll try again the next day,
So I will say this, because something that you said really did hit home, which is, for me, I don't overthink career and work anymore. But I do overthink relationships and dating and anything that has to come to that, as well as like social things. I will overthink any social situation that I'm putting myself in, that I haven't already been through. If it's a new experience that I haven't
like with
done.
new people, like
New
if you're
people.
being introduced to like a new like friend group, or to an event where you're like, you're probably the only one that knows one other person, and then you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I'll overthink a lot of that. I try my best to like move past it and always put myself in an uncomfortable situation, but I definitely overthink meeting somebody for the first time, trying to get on a dating app, doing all of the like dating type of formalities. More so, I think, out of judgment and fear.
Yeah.
And I will go through all of the circumstances that maybe I've already once been through that will hinder me in ever moving forward in that. So I can't relate my overthinking to career-wise anymore, because I truly don't think that I overthink as much in my career as I have ever have, but definitely in my personal life.
I could see that for you. Yeah. Career is hard for me because I'm in that stage of my career where I feel like especially since I've had my small business, I'm like, well, this is what I would do, but like, I'm not in a position to really speak more to specific strategies of the business. Like I work for a large company. Like,
yeah,
there's people, they pay a lot more money than me to make those decisions. And I'm like, okay, leave it up to them. So it's kind of like understanding when to insert myself and when not to insert myself into business decisions. Yeah, the overthinking. What I realized though is that I've been practicing to get out of it, because what I've realized is that you cannot think yourself out of overthinking.
Okay.
You can't. It takes, in my opinion, it takes a lot of mental strength, and like it takes a lot of mental like education for yourself and understanding your own mind, and it takes time, and yeah, that's a skill you have to kind of harness. But you can't think your way out of situations. You really, for me, I've realized I have to just act. Like I have to just move forward. I'll be thinking about something, and I was just the other day, I was like standing in my house and I was like having a thought because I stopped moving. I stopped doing whatever I was doing, and I was thinking about something so deeply. But then I'm like, what am I even thinking about? I don't even know. Like a shoe. Like let the thought pass. And for me, sometimes I try to get out of overthink. Because I catch myself. I'm aware when I do it. Mm-hmm. So I've made it to that point where I overthink certain aspects of my life. It's not everything, but I'm aware of when I'm doing it, and I'm trying to stop it in its tracks when it happens.
Okay.
And even if that is the simplest thing, where if I'm overthinking and I'm like doing something as I'm like mindlessly thinking, I will focus in on like the task I'm doing. So say I'm like making this tea. I am like, fill up the water container, turn on the kettle. Like I will like talk myself through steps
Okay.
to remove myself from that overthinking. And it kind of puts me back in the present of like what I'm doing.
Nice.
And then I can have a thought.
Nice.
So,
Do you
action.
typically overthink at home or out in public?
Probably more at home than I do. Cause like out in public, what do I go to work and then I go home.
I'm just curious because I think I go into my deep thoughts of overthinking when I'm in the car and I'm driving and I'm by myself out in public. Like I will go there and I don't think that it's always so like intense of a thought.
Okay.
But I do notice when I do it because then I'm like, oh shoot. Because if you're driving and then it's like, oh shoot, I have to like focus because you're on a stoplight or like, you know, like things like that.
Have you ever talking about that left, like say I was like leaving work and then all of a sudden like you're home and you're like, how the hell did I get home? I'm like, I didn't remember looking at a green light. I don't remember braking.
I don't think that's happened to me because I'm actually very aware, but
like obviously I'm aware I didn't hit anybody. But
has that happened to you?
like getting like you're just home? Yeah.
Oh.
No, I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't hit anybody, but I meant, yeah. Like it's that your mind's just drifting.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if that's overthinking, but I do see myself going there in those subjects that do make me overthink. Otherwise, no, I don't typically at home.
yeah.
Maybe. Honestly, I don't even recall if I overthink. So does that mean I'm overthinking?
Maybe you're just not aware.
Maybe just...
No, you're a very aware person. You would know.
Maybe it doesn't hurt me as much anymore. I'm just kind of like going through the motions.
You've evolved. You've grown.
Let's hope so. Do you think that overthinking is at all like, or can at all be positive though for you?
Oh, because I'm a very technical person. And that might be also leading into why I overthink. Because I, like at work, my job, I'm a very technical person where that's how I thrive. It's like I can see all the details. I can make sure everybody's aware of like what's going on. And yeah.
But don't you think that's forward thinking, not overthinking?
See, that's what I wouldn't label overthinking. That's a productive planning and strategy. Like,
yeah.
And that's why when I said what my definition of overthinking is like, that's not included overthinking. But I think if I take those habits and apply them to...
Okay, can I ask just...
Okay.
Because I feel like we're all curious. Maybe it's just me.
Oh,
what
God.
is something that you're overthinking right now in your current life? Too serious. She wasn't prepared for my question.
Well, something popped in my mind. I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about that yet.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, maybe this is a good one. Mm-hmm. It's so small, but I'm thinking about I moved into my new place. I'm inviting a couple of people or a small group of people over as like a small housewarming party. And then we'll probably go out and just grab a couple of drinks later. It took me so much to send, not to you girls, or the gals I sent it to, but I sent it to a handful of like work people. And I'm like, do I do it? Do I not? It's like, is it going to be too crowded? Is,
Will everyone get along? Yeah.
It's actually kind of a lot of that too. Some of them I invited that don't live right here in Long Beach. And I'm like, if they come all this way, like I just don't want to disappoint them. And
of course.
It took me, but I'm trying to get over. I'm like, honestly, I'm going to enjoy myself. Oh yeah, I sent it.
Okay.
But it took me like, I've been thinking about sending it since Saturday and it's now Tuesday evening.
Okay.
So it's like, do I do it? Am I going to, and again, it's kind of this rut I'm still trying to get out of is, am I in the mood to host people? Like come that, when you set it like 2 weeks out am I going to be in the mood to host people on this random Saturday that I picked, and because I don't have as much control over.
Yeah, but you're going to look forward to it. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, that's what makes me excited.
Yeah.
So now I'm getting excited because it's set in stone and I have to deliver. And this is where the easy part is.
Well, relative, but yes.
But for me, this is easy part is the getting things
we'll
together.
We'll wait until it's a few days before, but yeah.
We'll let you know how it goes. But yeah,
Okay.
so like that's something I've recently.
So socially hosting a party, you can overthink. I know I overthink. I overthink about every aspect of hosting a party.
Yeah.
I want everyone to be happy. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. I have a thought. Do you think, I'm assuming we'll try to wrap this up here soon about overthinking, but have you ever heard the concept of, so the difference between men and women and how they think? Like, do you think this is more of a woman-led, I'm not going to say issue, but like we tend to overthink more? Like women tend to overthink more.
Okay.
I'm asking you, do you assume?
Do I think?
Yeah, do you think?
I'm going to say that we think through scenarios more long term. I don't think as many men, based off of like the people in my life, think about maybe like as many different scenarios. I think that they'll think about a few, but I think that like for every 4 that we think about, they only think about 2. Like I think that they think about half of the amount of things that could happen as much as females do. Because I feel like a lot of people, when you're in conversations with people that are in relationships and the female's like, well, what about all this, and this? They're like, yeah, but like it will be fine.
Yeah. Because I was talking to someone a while ago now, but it reminded me of this concept that men's brains, like if you had a bunch of boxes and thoughts. So like a men's brain, you have to open one box and they have a thought.
Yes.
Then they have to close the box to move on to the new thought. And over here, it's like
Were we with the same person? Because I definitely remember this.
I could have had this conversation with a handful
Multiple
of people.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Got it.
But so men, they have one thought box. You have to open it. They have a thought. They close it before they move on. So
it's one thing at a time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Putting thoughts into different compartments, where women have 5 boxes open all at the same time. And I feel that because when I do go on some like thought, I call them thought bubbles, but they're not really that productive. They're not healthy. They're not, if it's around the same topic, good. Because I'm going like really deep into like the breadcrumb trails that I've identified in my mind. But when you see me like jumping from, this leads to that and that connects to that. And here's that last little bit. And then I'm back to square one. It's just not, yeah. So okay. I don't know if you believe that men and women think differently.
Because I've heard this directly from a guy before. I definitely have. I'm going to say yes, but yeah, I just think it's easier for us to multitask in general. And because we can multitask, we can think about this different thoughts all at once, whether they're productive thoughts or not. I think that is part of who we are.
Yeah.
But, I actually really appreciate my overthinking because I actually have the same Dr. David. He, the psychologist and mental health advocate, mind you, if you don't remember from the beginning of our conversation, he also says, like, while overthinking can certainly be detrimental to our mental health and well-being, it can also be a sign of highly analytical and thoughtful mind. And for me, that really hit home because I do feel like I am very analytical and thoughtful. And like thoughtful to me, when I think about that, is like considering others. It's considering all possibilities. It's making sure that I am taking into consideration what I'm okay with making the decision on. And I'm pretty sure we had this conversation earlier on in our podcast where I was like, it's just so simple to understand life now because it's a matter of making decisions. Mm-hmm. And part of that, and with overthinking, when it does happen is just being okay because I have a thoughtful mind, knowing that like because I am thoughtful in my overthinkingness, that my decision is going to be okay. Like whether you ruffle some feathers or not. And this is kind of the terms I've come to with my overthinking, which is why I think it makes it easier for me to be like, well, it's going to be okay. Like regardless of whatever I choose, because I know I've considered everything and I haven't really like let it get to me, all these considerations. And I've made a decision on it. And if anyone wants to come to me and say otherwise, well, good for you. Because I've already made my decision.
Yes, Alex, you're very considerate. So overthinking, we all do it, or I just do it. Maybe Alex doesn't anymore. But how do you, or is there steps that you take to, stop your overthinking, or is there anything you would suggest?
I think my suggestion is definitely meditation and self-awareness. Now that you need to meditate, or maybe faith at the end of the day, like it can be a lot of different things, but I think that the main thing that has helped me is just understanding my awareness towards others. Like I've had to go through my own difficulties of my own personal, like, oh, I was always this way with my friends. They're not going to like me if I'm otherwise. I've changed how I was and they still like me. Like I had to actually go through the opposite of what I thought people would hate and see that it's okay. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, don't be afraid to change, but like you should change and see that people will not actually be as maybe hard on you about whatever the situation is as you think that they will be. Because if you don't try, you don't know, and you're only in your own head about it for all the time. And that is the, I think, definition of overthinking is just being in your head. So I would say just give it a try. And if it is as bad as you thought it was, I'm so sorry, but I promise you it's not always going to be that way, and it will change for you.
It might not be like, even if it was bad, you still experience it and now you know. I think the not knowing how an outcome could have been just by not taking action is worse than going through that experience. Again, probably not for everything, but most of my experiences come from taking a leap of faith, trying, because you don't know until
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Would you say that that is the same advice that you would give others, or do you have different advice?
I don't feel like I should be giving advice on overthinking at my current state of life. So I will say what I am going to try to do after, speaking to Alex. For me, I'm really going to try to complete more sleep to have clearer thoughts. And then try to maybe, for me, I would first try to identify if this is a self-confidence thought that I'm running away from, like pausing when I realize it's happening, trying to identify what is causing it, and then I was almost like diving deeper into it. I don't need to dive deeper into the thought.
Well, maybe journaling though.
Yeah, I should try journaling.
Yeah. Or like writing it down, like getting it out of your head.
That is something I meant to tell you. I realized that because I've realized I can't think my way out of overthinking. That it has helped since I started writing it down. What I've done is actually categorized aspects of my life, and it's more goal and value oriented, but most of that is why I'm overthinking. I go into my career, my personal life, relationships, like my living style, like how I'm living my life. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to journal those thoughts, get them down on paper, and then I will try to act on them. So pause, journal, action.
I
think
love it.
is what I'm going to try to do.
That's great.
And we'll see how it goes. And maybe next time I'll be fresh with clear thoughts.
I think give yourself grace. It's not always consistent. I cannot sit here and say I don't ever overthink ever. I would just say that I'm in a better place than I once was. And I get through my lows because I know I've been at my best.
I'll take it. I will take it.
I mean, like, that's all you can do. Just remember that you have once been at that point that you wanted to be. If that makes sense. Like, you've been the best self of you that you know currently, right? Like, you always want to get better, but you have seen the best of yourself at one point in time.
Yeah.
And just remember her because she's always with you. And don't think less of yourself if you aren't always her.
Yeah. It's still me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That version of me, this version of me.
We're talking about you in third party, and I'm so sorry because this is how I talk.
Man, the seasons.
But
all right.
I think that was great. I really hope that you guys find value in what we're talking about as far as overthinking. And if you do overthink, please let us know in the comments or any of the different social media sites that we do post on, because we would love to hear what are the things that you overthink and maybe how you get out of it. I'm no expert. I can't say that Erica is either.
Don't look this way. But if you are someone who claims they don't, if is there someone out there that exists that doesn't overthink, please let me know. I'd like to pick your brain. So yes,
We'd
please
love
comment.
to hear from you, and we appreciate you listening. So tune in next week. I think we're going to go over more similar thoughts, but definitely deep dive into just more chasing who we are, what we want to be, and we appreciate you listening. Erica, do you want to tell them where to find us?
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and then Instagram and TikTok. We are posting some teasers each and every week. So we will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.